second now.
Kol ha'olam ha'olam kulo, gesher tsar, tsar me'od, gesher tsar, tsar me'od, kol ha'olam kulo, kol ha'olam ha'olam kulo, gesher tsar, tsar me'od, gesher tsar, tsar me'od, kol ha'olam kulo. והעיקר לא לפחד, והעיקר לא לפחד, והעיקר לא לפחד, לא לפחד כלל. All the world is just a narrow bridge, just a narrow bridge, just a narrow bridge. All the world is just a narrow bridge, just a narrow bridge. And the important thing is not to make myself afraid. The important thing is not to make myself afraid. Kol ha'olam ha'olam kulo, gesher tsar, tsar me'od, gesher tsar, tsar me'od, kol ha'olam kulo.
We welcome you wherever you are. Thank you for joining us in our empty sanctuary. I'm Rabbi Alex Lazarus Klein. This is Dr. Yonina Andrea Foster. And we are here to lead the Holloway Memorial Chapel service to an empty group. The words that Dr. Foster just sang about a narrow bridge that we must cross and not be afraid really calls out to us in particular in this very spiritual and important community, because it is right across the bridge that we can't get to our sacred space of worship. We've been unable to for 2 years now. How much we long for Holloway Memorial. For those of you on the Canada side, perhaps you can go, but it is not the same without our whole group there, without us being able to be present with one another. And we hope today that we offer a little bit of comfort and consolation. We welcome you into the Congregation Shir Shalom Sanctuary. It is a different type of place than the Holloway Memorial Chapel, but hopefully you will find spirituality here. And this day in particular is an important day on our Jewish calendar. I think that's why I picked this as my chosen weekend. This is what's known as Tisha B'Av, which is the 9th of Av, our Sabbath day on the Jewish calendar, a day we commemorate the loss not of one, but 2 temples, and also the disillusionment of the Bar Kokhba revolt in the 130s CE. It is a time of immense sadness in the Jewish community, where we wail and mourn, often refraining from eating and drinking and celebrating as we remember what our brothers and sisters went through thousands of years ago, as if it was happening to us in this moment. And perhaps it's appropriate. We're here in an empty sanctuary. There is the sense of loss in our service, in our community, in our world, that we must cipher through as we slowly return, hopefully by next year, to our rightful place. How special that will seem. And that's really what we are singing about today. Now, as is customary for those of you at Holloway Memorial, we have a number of world leaders that we pray for peace for President Joe Biden of the United States, Justin Trudeau, the Prime Minister of Canada, and Queen Elizabeth of England. We send our love and prayers to them wherever they are. I also would like to say a note here at the beginning. There are many colleagues, both in Buffalo and beyond, that are taking this leadership and welcome you into their services wherever they are. Next week, you will have Reverend Canon Gordon Kinkley, who's at St. John's Anglican Church. And thank you, Reverend Kinkley, for leading the way next week. So what we're going to be doing today are some of the traditional prayers that we use on this day of mourning. And we're going to begin by lighting our Yisker Candle. This special candle that sits behind me is actually a candle that is meant for a week of Shiva. Here, I'll hold it up so you can see. This is a countdown timer for those that have just suffered an immense loss in their life of a close loved one. And it slowly ticks away through the wax till the end of the week. And we light it here in memorial. We do this on many other days, like Yom HaShoah, the day where we remember the Holocaust, as our lives and our hearts are heavy. So I'm going to light our candle, which hopefully will light our way in this service. And we're going to begin with a chant that's actually from after Tisha B'Av, which is a chant from Isaiah about comforting, called Nachamu. And I turned it to Dr. Foster.
Nachamu, Nachamu Ami, Nachamu, Nachamu Ami, Nachamu, 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 Nachamu Ami. Comfort, comfort my people. Comfort, comfort my people. Comfort, 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 comfort my people. Nachamu, Nachamu Ami, Nachamu, Nachamu Ami, Nachamu, 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 Nachamu Ami. And if you want to find the source for that, Isaiah 40, chapter 40, verse 1.
O Jerusalem, a great love I feel for you, O Jerusalem. Your stones fill my pores, and over your many hills glides my soul. But still I hate you. You pull me from myself, making me weak with arguments I can't answer. You are everything I want, but nothing I can have. Yet without you, my reflection is of a different person, cold and withdrawn. It is only on your raised streets that I can dance like King David, before the temple was even built, and the center of the world was reserved for the letters of your name. Many of the poems that I'll be reading and sharing, I wrote about 20 years ago in my rabbinical school studies, a time of great unrest in Jerusalem during the outbreak of the Second Intifada. And a lot of these are heartfelt, much like what our brethren and sisters from ages ago felt and still feel on the streets of Jerusalem. So I'm going to read from the beginning of Lamentations, or as it's known in Hebrew, Echa. Lonely sits the city, once great with people. She that was great among nations has become like a widow. The princess among states has become a thrall. Bitterly she weeps in the night, her cheek wet with tears. There is none to comfort her. Of all her friends, all her allies have betrayed her. They have become her foes. Judah has gone into exile because of misery and harsh oppression. When she settled among the nations, she found no rest. All her pursuers overtook her in the narrow places. Zion's roads are in mourning, empty of festival pilgrims. All her gates are deserted. Her priests sigh. Her maidens are unhappy. She is utterly disconsolate. Her enemies are now the masters. Her foes are at ease, because the Lord has afflicted her for her many transgressions. Her infants have gone into captivity. Before the enemy, gone from fair Zion are all that were her glory. Her leaders were like stags that found no pasture. They could only walk feebly before the pursuer.
All the precious things she had in the days of old, Jerusalem recalled, in her days of woe and sorrow, when her people fell by enemy hands with none to help her, when enemies looked on and gloated over her downfall. Jerusalem has greatly sinned, therefore she is become a mockery. All who admired her despise her, for they have seen her disgraced, and she can only sigh and shrink back. Her uncleanness clings to her skirts. She gave no thought to her future. She has sunk appallingly, with none to comfort her. See, O Lord, my misery, how the enemy jeers. The foe has laid hands on everything dear to her. She has seen her sanctuary invaded by nations, which you have denied admission into your community. All her inhabitants sigh as they search for bread. They have bartered their treasures for food to keep themselves alive. See, O Lord, and behold how abject I have become.
I'd like to read another poem about battles and about how little they achieve. The old battlefield. There's nothing left of the battlefield. Even the grass has turned cold stone. If you could dig beneath the surface, you might find a few specks of loose change, pockets soldiers forgot to empty, splinters from houses that once stood. It's told that more than 1 million died there, young men and women obliterated in the heat of battle. But now only their dust sits restless, each claiming victory in the bits of grass emerging from the stone. We continue with Lamentations, verse 12 of chapter 1. May it never befall you, all who pass along the road. Look about and see, is there any agony like mine, which was dealt out to me, when the Lord afflicted me on his day of wrath? From above he sent a fire down into my bones. He spread a net for my feet. He hurled me backwards. He has left me forlorn. In constant misery, the yoke of my offenses is bound fast, lashed tight by his hand, imposed upon my neck. It saps my strength. The Lord has delivered me into the hands of those I cannot withstand. The Lord is in my midst, has rejected all my heroes. He has proclaimed a set time against me to crush my young men. As in a press, the Lord has trodden fair maiden Judah. For these things do I weep. My eyes flow with tears. Far from me is any comforter who might receive my spirit. My children are forlorn, for the foe has prevailed. Zion has spread out her hands. She has no one to comfort her. The Lord has summoned against Jacob his enemies all about him. Jerusalem has become among them a thing unclean.
The Lord is in the right, for I have disobeyed him. Hear, all you peoples, and behold my agony. My maidens and my youths have gone into captivity. I cried out to my friends, but they played me false. My priests and my elders have perished in the city as they searched for food to keep themselves alive. See, O Lord, the distress I am in. My heart is in anguish. I know how wrong I was to disobey. Outside the sword deals death, indoors the plague. When they heard how I was sighing, there was none to comfort me. All my foes heard of my plight and exulted, for it is your doing. You have brought on the day that you threatened. Oh, let them become like me. Let all their wrongdoing come before you, and deal with them as you have dealt with me for all my transgressions. For my sighs are many, and my heart is sick. By the waters of Babylon, we lay down and wept for thee, Zion. We remember thee, Zion. We lay down and wept for thee, Zion. We remember thee, Zion. By the waters of Babylon, we lay down and wept for thee, Zion. We remember thee, Zion.
Jonah's prayer. Jonah once laughed as he cried, watching Nineveh covering herself in sackcloth. The sand stuck to his feet was all he really wanted to see. A damaged world made clean by destruction. Who knew God could be forgiven even more than people? The plant's spine providing shade. He did not want from the sun, a yawn revealing sharp teeth, and blue sky as harrowing as the sea from out of which he just escaped. When will we learn prophets never bring peace, only trails of broken dreams? I am, and I am nothing, says Jonah. And you, my maker, cannot tell me to forget the past. It grows inside of me, fresh wounds of a nation scattered, caught in Babylon. Yes, people fast. Yes, they cry. But tears cannot blur my memory of a destroyed temple and a proud people carried to a place of widows and old men. As I read these words that I wrote so long ago, they speak to me today and to us. Here we are at the end of such an ordeal, like we always are in our lives. There's always disasters happening at any moment of time, people crying out and not being heard. We understand this too well in this very imperfect world. You may have noticed that I wore the same tie on Friday night as I'm wearing now, if you can see it through the camera lens. This is in honor of Native Americans who faced their own Holocaust. 90% of their population, almost 90 million people, decimated in the period of 150 years. We know, those of you in Canada, how cruel this was, how we took away their life and their culture, robbed it of them, something that can never be reborn. There's something about Tisha B'Av and its sadness that also has a measure of hope. For both Christians and Jews and Muslims, this was a time of destruction, but also rebirth. We wouldn't be where we are today, us Abrahamic religions, without the destruction. We walk across, if you're lucky enough, across the streets of Jerusalem, and you can still see those stones. The stones that the Romans put wood inside of and blasted open. Immense stones, almost the size of 2 747 jets that lay in pieces still to this day, reminders of that harrowing time. A time where the Romans thought they had wiped all of us out, all Judeans, all monotheists. And yet, here we are. Even in our darkest times, there are moments of light. I'd like to share a poem that I wrote more recently. It was on a trip to Israel, an interfaith trip with other clergy members. And it was a trip to a couple, one Muslim, one Jewish, who had created a preschool for their kids and for other kids in that similar situation of divide and unrest. Both of their families had been locked in a long battle. For their families, this relationship was a hard relationship, and yet it was full of love, cosmic love. When I heard Ehab describe his romance to Orah, how he knew the moment they met, they fell in love. They saw each other on the beach, and he proposed only a few hours later to her, a romantic. She went through with the promise, but only on condition that they could understand and bring their families in. And slowly but surely they did. This is about my interactions with them, but it's about peace that always lays buried underneath our private battles that usually lead nowhere. Our driver's name is Nisim, Hebrew for miracle. The plastic lights on the roof of the bus look like they have wings. They are angels, and we are flying. To our right, a pool of water they call the Mediterranean. It is also called Yam HaHaron, the sea behind us. The palm trees lean towards us, the wind making them look modest, their fronds wrapped together like a woman in prayer. We are on our way to Jaffa, where for thousands of years pilgrims emerged from the sea, the Holy Land a mirage in the distance. And now, in our new friend's apartment, they are dressed in white as they discuss love. It is full of life and laughter. The candles on the small table dance with light. He is Muslim, she is Jewish. Tea is brewing in the kitchen. Our bare feet rest on carpets of gold. Yes, God could be here. Smoke drifts from our ceramic cups. A rooster walks in the courtyard beside a peacock. Sunlight drifts in, resting on a tray of oranges. A picture by my right is in Arabic letters, resembling a benign snake. I ask the woman what it means. It is God's name, Allah. We're going to turn to a prayer of hope, one particularly in the Holocaust, really called out, Ani Ma'amin, I believe, despite everything, that there should be hope.
Based upon Maimonides' 13 Principles of Faith. Ani Ma'amin, Ani Mamin, Ani Mamin, Ani Mamin, Bemuna Shlema, Bemuna Shlema, Beviat HaMashiach, Beviat HaMashiach, Ani Mamin. Beviat HaMashiach, Beviat HaMashiach, Ani Mamin. Ani Mamin, Ani Mamin, Ani Mamin, Ani Mamin.
We turn to the final chapter of Lamentations. Despite everything, we have survived. We have persevered. We have endured. We have had much in the way of loss, people that will never return. When we return to Holloway Memorial next year, it will be a shell filled with memories of so many who never had a chance to return. And yet we do return. And the rabbis understood that we should always end with hope. And they turn just like that in the book of Lamentations to hope. Remember, O Lord, what has befallen us. Behold and see your disgrace. Our heritage has passed to aliens, our homes to strangers. We have become orphans, fatherless. Our mothers are like widows. We must pay to drink our own water, obtain our own kindling at a price. We are hotly pursued, exhausted. We are given no rest. We hold out a hand to Egypt, to Assyria, for our fill of bread. Our fathers sinned, and we are no more, and we must bear their guilt. Slaves are ruling over us, with none to rescue us from them. We get our bread at the peril of our lives. Because of the sword of the wilderness, our skin glows like an oven with the fever of famine. They have ravished women in Zion, maidens in the town of Judah. Princes have become hanged by them. No respect has been shown to elders. Young men must carry millstones, and youths stagger under loads of wood. The old men are gone from the gate, the young men from their music. Gone is the joy of our hearts. Our dancing is turning into mourning. The crown has fallen from our head. Woe to us that we have sinned.
Because of this, our hearts are sick. Because of these, our eyes are dimmed. Because of Mount Zion, which lies desolate, jackals prowl over it. But you, O Lord, are enthroned forever. Your throne endures through the ages. Why have you forgotten us utterly, forsaken us for all time? Take us back, O Lord, to yourself, and let us come back. Renew our days as of old, for truly you have rejected us, bitterly raged against us. Take us back, O Lord, to yourself, and let us come back. Renew our days as of old. Ki'im ma'os ma'astanu kitsafta, aleinu ad me'od. Od yavo shalom aleinu, Od yavo shalom aleinu, Od yavo shalom aleinu ve'al kulam. Od yavo shalom aleinu, Od yavo shalom aleinu, Od yavo shalom aleinu ve'al kulam. Salam aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam shalom. Salam aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam shalom. Od yavo shalom aleinu. Od yavo shalom aleinu. Od yavo shalom aleinu ve'al kulam. Od yavo shalom aleinu. Od yavo shalom aleinu. Od yavo shalom aleinu ve'al kulam. Salam aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam shalom. Salam aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam shalom. One last time, we'll do it together if you haven't been doing it already with me. Please join in. Peace be on us, on everyone, over the whole world. Od yavo shalom aleinu. Od yavo shalom aleinu. Od yavo shalom aleinu ve'al kulam. Od yavo shalom aleinu. Od yavo shalom aleinu. Od yavo shalom aleinu ve'al kulam. Salam, salam aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam, shalom. Salam, shalom aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam, shalom. Salam, shalom.
We're grateful for those of you joining us from Holloway Memorial Chapel, from Congregation Shir Shalom, or from wherever you are. We send you peace and love and healing. We could always use a little healing. Today marks also the 7 weeks that we have to our Jewish High Holy Days, Rosh Hashanah, as we march towards healing, as the words of Isaiah told us, Nachamu, Nachamu, be comforted. Now, Dr. Foster and I are going to leave you, and we're going to leave a quiet sanctuary. I'm going to turn off the lights, and I encourage you just to sit in silence in your own thoughts and prayers as a way of healing and moving beyond this period we're in, as a way of remembering all that we have lost. Take care.